Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another video for Splatoon. And in this video, I am talking weapons. Splatoon has a wide range of primary weapons to choose from, and as you level up and progress, you unlock more options at the gun shop. There are 9 main types to choose from, and additional variants of the base models with different sub and special configurations to match. But for the purposes of this video, let's take a really quick look at the main 9. First up, you have the Splattershot Jr. This is the weapon you'll begin the game with, and it's a pretty good place to start. It has relatively low range and low damage, but a very high rate of fire. So while you won't be using this to shoot people from afar, it's great for covering ground, and if you're up close and personal with your enemy, then the firepower will more than make up for the lack of damage. Next up, you have the Splattershot. See this as the big boy version of the gun you start with. It has relatively good range, relatively good damage, and an above average fire rate. It doesn't fire as fast as the Splattershot Jr, but the damage and range compensate for that fact. This is probably the one you're going to want to upgrade to first, partly because it's the first one you actually unlock, and partly because it's one of the most versatile guns, good for most encounters. Then you have the Splat Roller. Now this one doesn't really compare, as it doesn't have a fire rate or damage in the conventional sense. As you can no doubt guess by the name, this weapon is more for covering ground than advancing on the enemy firing paint bullets. If you do want a bit of range, then if you press ZR, you can throw out a splat of paint in front of you, but where this really comes into its own is when you hold down ZR and run. You basically paint the ground and cover everywhere you go. If you do encounter an enemy and you run them over, it's an instant kill, but just watch out for enemies with ranged weapons, as you can be a bit of a target otherwise. Moving on, we have the Splat Charger. Think of this as Splatoon's sniper rifle. It has extremely good range, good damage, and can one-shot an enemy if you hit them with a full charge. But the key there is the word charge. This weapon needs to be charged to be most effective. You can spam ZR to spray out paint quickly, but it's far more effective if you actually charge up the shot and aim up, as the shot covers a pretty good distance and paints the ground in a long line in front of you. Use this when you're in a team to pick off the enemy and stop them covering ground. Then you have the Blaster. Now this doesn't have great range or a very fast fire rate, but it has extremely high impact. This gun fires out large paintballs that explode in the air or on contact with surfaces and enemies. The large ball is good for covering ground in a wide splat-like radius, and given the high impact, will also take out your enemy in one if you land a clean shot. Just be mindful of your range and try to avoid long-range engagements, as more often than not, you'll come up short. Then next up we have the Jet Swelter. This has really good range, a moderate rate of fire, but the damage output is a little on the low side. However, despite that, range is your ally here. This gun can spray ridiculously far, and thanks to the fire rate, it's brilliant for covering ground. If you come up against an enemy, use the range to your advantage, and control the space around them before they can close the gap. Moving on, we have the Aerospray MG, my personal favourite weapon. This has the highest rate of fire of any weapon types right now, but the sacrifice is that your range and damage output is pretty low. Despite that, thanks to the rate of fire, it's great at covering ground in front of you, and if you come up against an enemy, the fire rate more than makes up for the damage, plus you'll outshoot all other weapons. Again, do be mindful of mid to long range engagements, just getting close and you'll come out on top. Then the penultimate weapon, the classic Squiffer. This is another charge rifle, and like the Splat Charger, it too requires that you charge your shots before unleashing them for maximum effect. However, the difference with this one is that it has a much quicker charge time, so you can get your shot off much sooner. That does however mean its range isn't quite as good as the Splat Charger, but it's still greater than most other weapons, so use that to your advantage and pick off your enemy from afar. Lastly, you have the Rapid Blaster. This behaves the same way that the Blaster does, only this one has considerably lower impact, but greater range and fire rate, meaning it is once again great for covering ground as it fires out large paintballs that explode, but thanks to the rate of fire and the range, you have a bit more flexibility when it comes to engagements. This will however take a couple of shots to take out your enemy, so keep that in mind. And with that, brings me to the end of this video. That was just a really quick look at the 9 base primary weapon types in Splatoon. There's more to talk about, including sub-weapons and specials, but for now, thank you very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.